the kid in the story, before they went to this summer conference, he had his heart and his mind set on these things, this YOLO way of living. And he didn't want to do this. But as these conferences go on, they start off kind of slow. Kind of getting there, tired from your trip in, and so you're just going with the flow for the first couple nights and whatnot. And so they get in, and he's still got his mind focused over here. He wants these things over here. And he's trying to block this out over here. He's like, okay, I'm here for fun. I'm not here for this. I don't want to hear these. Well, God does some pretty crazy things. And one of the nights, and they kept listening to speakers, and the speakers got more just at these things. They get passionate and start yelling, and because they're so passionate and on fire. And he saw that some things started to change. His mindset went from this earthly way to this heavenly way, like what Paul says here: set your hearts on things above, where Christ is seated at the right hand of God. Set your mind on things above, not on earthly things. Well, he started to make this transition, like what Paul says here, from the earthly things to the world, or from the earthly things to the heavenly things. And so his mind started switching, and then his heart started to follow. And so one night later on in the week, after one of the night sessions, all the youth ministers came up front, and he said, okay, if anybody wants to make a decision or talk with their youth minister or anything like that, you come down and pray. There's a huge crowd of youth ministers, kids crying, hugging, and him and a buddy went down front, in front of thousands of kids, and found their youth minister in this crowd, and their youth minister prayed with them. Because they didn't dedicate themselves to the ministry. They didn't get baptized because they were already baptized. They just wanted to make this switch, like what Paul talks about here, from earthly things to heavenly things. And then also in their heart, they wanted accountability for that. And so they decided that. When they came home from this church retreat, it's really easy when you come, even Sunday mornings or church retreats, to be on fire for God, just up on a high. And then once you start getting in the grind, you just kind of start to fade away. And you're up here, you're up on this high for God, and you start going to work, you start going back to school, you start to slowly come back this way. That's what he did. The boy in the story, he was up here, he stayed up here, but then he got into his senior year, last year of high school, he wanted to get out. Well, he knew he had his mind and his heart set on these things, but he still saw those things over there. He kind of wanted them. So as school started, he started kind of walking back over here, but he looked back over here, but then looked over there, and not know which one to do. And senior year kept going, and at the church retreat, him and his youth minister and buddy started getting really close. Rather than going and hanging out with his friends in high school, they'd go to the youth minister's house and just hang out. And they started to develop this relationship with them. And every time they would go over there, the boy in the story was trying to figure out what he wanted to do. He didn't know what he wanted to do. So the youth minister and his wife would kind of put a bug in their ear. You should go here for school, you should do this, you should go here, I think this would be really cool, and you'd make a good fit here. And he still was looking, he was still in the middle here, and he was still looking both ways, so he didn't know which one to choose. And that bird, or that bug in his ear, kind of helped him stay over here more, but he still wasn't fully committed. So time for graduation came around, and he made a decision to go to school for education. He wanted to be a teacher. He really wanted to be a coach. He didn't care much for the teaching. He just wanted to be a coach. Because he was in high school, he was big into sports, and that's what he knew. He didn't know English. He knew basketball. So that's what he wanted to do. So he goes into his freshman year. he's over here now because the school he chose. But he's still looking over there, but he's almost over here. And some things still don't feel right for him. So he's going through his first semester, and he decides to change some things. And so now I'm studying youth ministry and preaching at Johnson University, and my story helps us realize what Paul is trying to tell us here in the text. In verse 3 there, for you died and your life is now hidden with Christ in God. When Christ, who is your life, appears, then also will appear him in glory. Right there in verse 3, for you died and your life is now hidden with Christ in God. We don't get a choice of which side. Well, we do get a choice, and it's your choice, not mine, not anybody else's. It's your choice. But if you want this choice over here, you can't keep coming back over here. After church gets out or after you come home from the youth retreat, you can't say, yes, I want this in my heart and my mind, and then slowly start to walk back over here and just forget about that. You have to stay fully devoted. You have to die to yourself, like Paul says here, because your life is now with Christ. And that's what it's about. If you want to live this different way, in this different way of thinking, in this different way, in your heart, and so people see it, you just can't say, yes, I'm this way. People have to see it. And it might not be a huge thing. You don't have to go around and throwing your Bible at people. It might just be a little different way. They see you, or see you act, or see you do something nice for somebody else. But we have to die to our old selves, and you can't have either way. And you might already be over here. I don't know. You might be here, or you might be here, or you might be here all the way over there. But if you're here, I encourage you to find somebody. I know everybody knows that one person in their life that might be struggling in their life, that's over here in a dark place, that doesn't want this, to encourage them like Paul encourages us in his letter to the Colossians, and to pray for them, and just to live this different way, whether it be at work, whether it be at home with your kids or your spouse or your brothers and sisters, or wherever it may be. I encourage you and I challenge you to try to take that step of faith and come fully over here. And if you are here, encourage those who have not made this decision for Christ in this different way. So in my story, YOLO, wanted to live this way over here, drinking and partying and having fun. But you can also live YOLO over here. You only do live once. So live it. If you're going to live it for Christ, live it fully, because you can't pick. You can't go here to here. You got to stay. It's a choice, and if you don't choose, you're choosing that side. It's a choice that you have to make in your heart and in your mind, and you have to die to yourself. So as we go out this week to work and wherever you may go, I challenge you and I encourage you to think on heavenly things and put your heart in the right place, like Paul says here, and keep your heart and mind on things above and not of earthly things, and die completely to yourself, because that's what Christ calls us to do. He calls us to be imitators of Him, like Paul says in Ephesians 5:1, and you got to choose. And if you're at a time in your life right now where today is the day that you want to choose this side, I encourage you to pray with somebody, or I encourage you, as we get ready to sing this next song, to come up and devote your heart and your mind and your life into Christ. So if you guys get your hymnals out.